on Earth is influenced by the most important of compounds, water. This comes from Marelby Mosquera, professor of natural science and mathematics here at Heston College. Water is very important to every living thing on this earth, and as humans, we are beginning to damage our sources of water. According to the Environmental News Service in an article titled, "Climate Change to Cause Massive Ocean Damage by 2100, 98% of oceans will be affected by acidification by year 2100. 470 to 870 million people rely on the ocean for food, jobs, and revenue, and carbon dioxide concentrations could reach 900 parts per million by 2100. These shocking but unfortunately correct statistics about the depletion of our Earth with the emission of carbon dioxide have a great effect on the water and therefore everything that lives within it. After researching more from this and discussing it in my chemistry class, I have grown more curious about this topic and would like to share what I have learned. First, we have to take a look at the chemistry behind why carbon dioxide makes the ocean more acidic, and then in turn how that affects the ocean inhabitants. So firstly, growing carbon dioxide levels that are produced from the combustion of coal are causing the oceans to become more acidic, as shown here in this graph. Over the years, the acidity of the ocean has greatly increased, therefore dropping the pH. According to Ashanti Johnson and Natasha D. White of American Scientists, the ocean has dropped 0.1 units in pH, which correlates to a 30% increase in acidity. And if this continues, we'll drop another 0.5 units or 150% increase in acidity. The conversion of carbon dioxide to acidity in oceans is taken from a scientific approach. From the academic journal Effects of Ocean Acidification on Temperate Coastal Marine Ecosystems and Fisheries in the Northeast Pacific, as we continue to burn fossil fuels and emit carbon dioxide into the air, about 30% of this carbon dioxide that we generate as humans is absorbed by the ocean, and when reacts with water produces an increase in hydrogen ions and therefore increases the acidity. To take a closer look at this, to represent this conversion, we will look at the carbonic acid equation. When carbon dioxide increases, the equation moves left and the hydrogen ions also increase. With more hydrogen ions, you will have a lower pH, therefore a higher acidity in the solution. So now that we understand the chemistry behind this, how does this affect the inhabitants of the ocean? The results of this increase in acidity is a threat to the wildlife that inhabits the ocean and could lead to the deaths of many organisms. Ocean ecosystems are fragile and cannot withstand chemical changes in the saltwater. According to the Environmental News Service, as referenced in Lisa Levin, many deep-sea ecosystems are so stable, even small changes in temperature, oxygen, and pH may lower the resilience of deep-sea communities. So 2 examples of how this affects organisms is the increasing acid levels of harmful plants and animals that have calcium carbonate structures like coral and shellfish. Shown here with this equation, the acid levels rise, making carbonate levels decrease. So thus the water becomes less saturated with carbonate, and those structures that have carbonate structures have to have more energy to maintain their structures. This comes from the academic journal Effects of Ocean Acidification on Temperate Coastal Marine Ecosystems and Fisheries in the Northeast Pacific. An example of this would be the petrapod who lives in the southern ocean of Antarctica, which has an aragonite shell, and with this it can break down and impair its development, according to Ashanti Johnson and Natasha D. White. Another example is the increasing acid levels that affect respiration of CO2 in marine life. Marine animals clear themselves of metabolic CO2 through respiration, and they rely on pH for ion regulation within their cells and outside of their cells. So when the pH of the ocean is changing, they have to increase their energy to maintain their pH in their body, according to the academic journal Effects of Ocean Acidification on Temperate Coastal Marine Ecosystems and Fisheries in the Northeast Pacific. So after looking at these 2 examples of how ocean acidification affects marine life, the human exercise of carbon dioxide emission is reacting with the ocean water to increase its acidity, which in turn is hurting sea life populations. So we aren't just looking to save the whales this time, but it's a matter of saving